at the very beginning of the year, we said, there's not always one correct answer. There can be multiple right answers, or multiple answers that both make sense. And this is one of those, perhaps, instances. What I want to take a look at today, though, is this idea of welfare. I want to sort of make sure that we have a clear understanding, because we didn't get a chance to talk about it before we started our posters. So in your notes, let's just title welfare. We're going to just talk a little bit, maybe about 10 minutes or so about welfare. Just make sure we can clear the air and make sure it makes sense. No doubt all of you now have seen the word welfare and you've read a little bit about it. Oscar, when you read welfare, what did you get from welfare? What is welfare for you, in your opinion? It's the government's fault? Okay, so this could be one of the problems of welfare. Okay. But what exactly is welfare? How do we define what welfare is? Sometimes welfare is described as the welfare state. How would we define the welfare state? For our purposes, we can just say welfare and the welfare state kind of, we'll just combine them together. They're the same idea. But welfare is this system in modern industrial societies. So that's the first thing we must understand about welfare. It's only in modern industrial societies typically. And welfare is money or assistance given to those in poverty. Money or assistance given to those who are in poverty. This assistance can be what we might call, it can be in the form of food stamps, and food stamps are like meal vouchers. If you've gone into Tokyo Kitchen in Central Park or maybe at other places, they give you like a little card, and your card you kind of pass to people and then at the very end you pay. It's kind of that same idea, a food voucher. It could be education. These are various types of welfare that the government can give people who are in poverty. Why? Why would the government give people who are in poverty money or assistance, Jovan? Why do you think? Help them. Help them what? Huh? Okay, so we need to help them because they have less. Okay, to make sure they have life or better life chances. Good, I like that we're using vocab. What might be the main purpose of it? What do you think? What might be the purpose of welfare? Make the country strive for the better? Those are all possible reasons. If we give people enough money or food, it's going to keep people out of absolute poverty. Poverty is not good for a country. It's not good for the economy to have so many people who are poor and don't have good jobs. It's better to have people who are working, spending money, and saving money, and working for the economy, and people who are taking from the economy. So welfare is like a safety net. And so what happens, if you're in poverty, you can fill out an application, much like if you were going to university. You don't need to write this down. You fill out an application that says, that proves that you are perhaps living in poverty. And if you're accepted, then you can receive welfare. How do they determine? Well, if you live below the poverty line, the level of income below which you make, you're considered to be poor. In Indonesia, the minimum wage is what, 3 million, something like that a month? So if you make less than 3 million maybe a month, you might be considered living in poverty. And if this were a modern industrial society, you could apply for welfare. Extra money to make sure that you have enough food so you can buy medicine or things like that. You don't have to worry about choosing, do you pay for medicine or do you pay for groceries? And things like that. Your children have education. But we said that there were some problems with welfare, and this should be stuff that you guys kind of saw now as we go. And several people wrote on their posters that welfare is just not enough. This is one of the problems of welfare. Here's a picture of people who are disabled, right? If you look, people who are most likely to be in poverty or struggling in society are those who are disabled. And you see these people are protesting. Raise disability rates now. Welfare and disability. It's not enough. If you can't work because you are physically disabled and the government's not giving you enough money, how are you supposed to survive? And so welfare just might not be enough to keep people out of more or deeper poverty. The next problem we're going to look at is that it's often a complicated system. If you are living in poverty because you have almost no education, you can't read or write, which is the case for millions of people across the world, or if you don't have an identity card, it's a complicated system to go through to prove that you are in poverty. You can't just show up in bad clothes and say, I'm poor or living in poverty. It's a complicated system, and if you don't have, this, you might not get all the benefits that you should have. So second, it's complicated. Focus here, what I'm writing. This is kind of more in-depth. Tell me what's wrong with this picture. What's wrong with this picture here? I highly doubt money that's given to you to keep you out of absolute poverty is meant to be spent on liquor and cigarettes, or beer, or alcohol. So welfare can be abused. People take advantage of welfare sometimes. So some people, it goes to some people who don't need it, and some people who need it don't get it. So it's not proportioned out properly. These are some of the other reasons. You don't need to write them all down, but just kind of be aware of them. This next picture here is another cartoon. It's a little bit hard to read, but you can see people who are applying for welfare. It shows a guy that's drinking and smoking a marijuana cigarette. And then it's a guy who's applying for a job, and it says you must have drug testing as a condition of employment. And the satire of the picture is saying, well, it's much easier to just go on welfare and do nothing than to work hard and have a job and earn your money. And this results in what's called, as some of you guys put, dependency culture. Welfare creates a dependency culture. I think it was this poster over here that I really like what this group did. They gave examples of dependency culture. I don't need to work, the welfare is free stuff. Or working is for brainwashed people, the government gives us free housing. How many of you, if there was welfare system for grades, if you knew that you could never fail, you would always get at least a 55% for doing nothing, how many of you would try? You might be like, well, I'll always get a 55% no matter what. Okay, yeah, I'll play video games every day, or play futsal every day. Because if you're getting it for free, why would you work for it? And that's the idea of a dependency culture. People just become dependent on it, and they abuse welfare. All right. However, welfare has had some successes, as we can probably assume. Welfare does keep most people out of absolute poverty. It does make things more equal. There is some redistribution of wealth. We say society is an unequal distribution of wealth. And we're saying that this is a redistribution of that wealth. Welfare is ultimately supposed to be a safety net for someone who's struggling or drowning. It's a lifeline. Okay, we have just a few minutes left. And with that, I want you to just look at the following questions. Okay. Redistribution of wealth. Your homework for Monday is going to be defining the vocab terms in that poverty box from your vocab, which are these.